In the vast universe, a spacecraft is approaching the Earth. At the New Mexico Planet Research Center, the staff received a signal from the spacecraft. This made scientific researchers extremely happy. At that time, the General Department of Aviation of the Ministry of Defense also discovered it. They felt more worried than joyful. After that, they immediately informed the Secretary of Defense and the President. They did not know the reason why the flying object was approaching, or what to do. The spacecraft slowly opened its bay doors and released about 10 flying saucers, with a diameter of about 15 miles. Along with their appearance, the electronic devices on Earth began to experience noise. Every screen only showed noise waves or static. Information engineer David, after investigating, found it was because the spacecraft had affected the signal system on Earth. More dangerously, the radar signal was also lost. Everyone all over the world looked towards the clouds emitting a bright fire from the spacecraft landing. This made them extremely scared. There was no obvious explanation. The information on television was chaotic. The president could only activate the national defense system and all alarm devices. The alien guests had come. All of their last efforts were useless. They did not know who these beings were. The defensive systems were shot down by the other spacecraft. To protect the safety of the president, the White House staff advised him to leave. But the president chose to stay. He was determined to stand with his people to overcome the Great Tribulation. The lieutenant general also chose to stay to fight. The government held a meeting and notified the people of this urgent situation. David did some analysis. He passed the signals he had screened and judged that the aliens were emitting a countdown to attack. But at that time, everyone was receiving information from the government. No one believed David's words. Top officials were busy like ants on a hot pan, but ordinary people did not seem to be much affected. Veteran Russell was drinking alcohol with a few friends in a bar. But at this time, the ground began to shake. A spacecraft came down from the dark clouds. The surrounding cities were affected. Half of the city lay in the shadow of the ship. A lot of people ran out to see the spacecraft. They began to panic, frightened. There were people who did not know what was happening. The pilot, Captain Stephen Hiller, was one of them. Only when he ran out did he know the seriousness. Stephen said goodbye to his wife, ready to fight. David also called his ex-wife Connie, currently the presidential assistant. He told her the spacecraft was preparing to launch an attack on Earth. But his ex-wife did not listen to him, saying that this sounded like a myth. Everyone also lost the chance to prepare first. David did not give up. He went to the White House to prove his thoughts were right. Some choose to flee. Some people choose to stay. The news is not new. Thanks to the help of his ex-wife, David entered the White House. He told the president of his discovery. He proved that the ship was on a countdown. Although still a bit suspicious, the president also received his opinion. Earlier, the president had sent survey aircraft near the ship to collect information. When human helicopters were approaching it, they were indeed shot down. The president and everyone in the White House were about to leave. Brave heroes are always ready, including young people who hate to live and die and do not care about the ship. At that time, the ship launched its first attack. The lower part of the ship slowly opened and gathered energy into a giant light sphere, then shot it down at the ground. Countless buildings and great structures of humanity were burned. How many lives were lost? Pilot Stephen's girlfriend also almost lost her life. The next day, everything was suddenly silent. New York and many other cities had been completely destroyed. Many people died. The few alive also faced difficulties. The president was sitting in the plane blaming himself. If only the evacuation order had been given sooner, casualties could have been limited. At this time, the army was preparing for the counterattack. Stephen and his team were equipped with fighters to attack the ship. Countless fighters were ready to enter position. But when they shot bullets towards the aircraft, everything was not as easy as imagined. It turned out that the ship had a protective shield. Human bullets could not penetrate it. At the same time, it also released countless fighters, destroying a series of human aircraft. Moreover, they also shot at the ground. Attacking this spacecraft was no different than suicide. At this time, the pilots only left Stephen. He was facing countless alien aircraft chasing to kill him. Stephen was familiar with the terrain here and escaped successfully. Moreover, relying on the dangerous terrain, he destroyed a lot of enemy aircraft. The alien craft that chased him out was captured by Stephen. The attack in the air was not favorable. The president's assistants proposed a plan to attack with nuclear weapons. But for the safety of the people, the president hesitated. Bad news arrived. The vice president, chief of staff, and air defense officers were sacrificed. Using nuclear weapons at this time was extremely urgent. Although David bravely came to warn, it did not change anything. Seeing his son scolded, David's father also came to debate. He even said an incredible secret. It was America that had noticed the alien and secretly researched it. They had captured an alien and secretly researched it in Area 51. The president, of course, did not accept David's father's words. He also said that this was only information from tabloid newspapers. This proved that the president did not know. But the Secretary of Defense knew of the existence of Area 51. Was a group of specialized researchers there. All experiments in Area 51 were conducted on the 24th floor underground. To increase security, this area had existed for many years. The person in charge here was Dr. Oken. He led the president and the delegation to visit. It turned out that a spacecraft had actually come to Earth before, but at that time, due to negligence, the Army had captured it. For many years, Dr. Oken tried to fix it and researched the body of the alien. Although not fixed, the doctor had discovered many things. He said, just like humans, aliens feel hot and cold. When fighting, they carry sturdy exosuits to protect themselves. When removing this armor, they are extremely weak. They have no voice, only communicating through a central sensor. At that time, Stephen also brought back an alien body. Hearing the news that Stephen caught an alien, Dr. Oken was extremely happy. Finally, there was something to study. Observing the body brought back, the doctor decided to operate on it. It was thought that it was dead. Unexpectedly, it was just pretending. When the doctor intended to operate, it suddenly triggered a brain attack. The team could not subdue it. All experiments were destroyed. At that time, the president and group of people did not know the incident. They only saw the strange expression of the doctor. Turns out, the alien controlled Dr. Oken and made a voice through him. This incident made the people standing outside the laboratory very shocked. At first, the president wanted to negotiate with the alien, but they were suddenly attacked. When the president was in danger, the bodyguard took a deadly shot, killing the alien. By a stroke of luck, through that incident, the president learned that the resources of the aliens were exhausted, so they invaded Earth to live. Their purpose was to erase the entire civilization of mankind. To solve this, the president decided to use nuclear weapons. In the immediate future, there was no better way. Said and done, under his direction, the nuclear missiles were made ready. The meaning of this second counterattack was extremely important. The president decided to use offensive nuclear warheads, but they were also unable to destroy the protective shield. Humans began to despair. Nuclear weapons were the most advanced weapons, but they still did not work. At this time, Stephen appeared. He had saved his wife. The nuclear attack had failed. Engineer David was drunk and destroyed. His father approached him to take care of him. When talking to his father, David had a new idea. He summoned everyone and proposed his plan. David said they could spread a computer virus through the aliens' network, thereby ruining their protection system. They had finally discovered their information signals and exchanges. If they could be infected, the virus would spread to other spacecraft. Thus, the entire defense system would be disabled. Then they could launch a counterattack and win. They could use the captured spacecraft to break into their internal network. At this time, the spacecraft was ready. Stephen bravely took on the mission to pilot the spacecraft. He was determined to join David to carry out this mission. The Secretary of Defense had been killed. The president took charge. At this time, the president also used a broadcast to report to the whole world about this attack plan. 5 hours later, the entire people of the world stood shoulder to shoulder for the war. On the other hand, those with flight experience were selected for the flight team. In the previous match, they had lost countless good warriors. Veteran Russell also joined the battle. Earlier, he had returned home and worked on a crop dusting plane, but when the tribulation came, he was ready to return to the battlefield. David and Stephen were also preparing for the battle. Stephen also held a simple wedding with his girlfriend. The president also personally encouraged the crew. He gave a moving speech. Then they went to the spacecraft. David and Stephen were in another group. The spacecraft began to fly into the mothership. When the two of them started approaching the mothership, the spacecraft activated an automatic mode. It seemed the mothership had a great influence on the spacecraft. When they arrived, the two were extremely surprised to see that there were several thousand fighters here. They were all ready. After coming to the core, David uploaded the computer virus. As planned, the virus spread very quickly. On the other hand, human fighters were also ready, but their bullets still had no effect. The president did not care and continued to shoot. As expected, their protective shield had been deactivated. All fighters moved forward to discharge bullets towards the spacecraft. Of course, the aliens also counterattacked. The two sides fought very intensely. The president's forces were shot down a lot. At an important moment, veteran Russell joined the battle again. His goal was to lure them in one place and then shoot them down. But when he was about to enter the mothership, he was hit. There was no way to complete the mission. He decided to risk sacrifice. A shining explosion lit up the sky. Russell had exchanged his life to damage the mothership. The weakness quickly spread to other parts of the alien fleet. Humans could now attack the spacecraft through the hole. Victory was only a matter of time. Stephen and David encountered the alien again. They were discovered. Thinking quickly, they decided to fight. They launched a nuclear warhead. Unexpectedly, it was intercepted. They took the opportunity to board the mothership. They had only 30 seconds. At the moment the aliens closed the door, fortunately they had escaped. Behind them was a huge nuclear explosion. The mothership had been destroyed. The two people returned to Earth safely. In the battle, people around the world united together. They finally won. Perhaps this was the Independence Day of all humanity. 20 years later, glorious victories of mankind against the alien invasion, Earth had been restored and developed extremely advanced technology. Humans had mastered the technology of the aliens. Even the United Nations had established an alliance called Earth Space Defense, a global research and defense program. Its function was to monitor and defend against new attacks that could occur on Earth. Part of the system was deployed on the Moon. Area 51 was now advanced, renovated, and was the headquarters of Earth Space Defense. This is Dylan Hiller, Russell's son, the person whose father sacrificed himself to stab the alien mothership. Currently, he is a fighter pilot. He is also a close friend of Patricia, the former president's daughter from Part 1. Her boyfriend is Jake. He is currently working at the Global Defense Station. Recently, a series of strange events suddenly occurred. The captured alien monsters became more and more excited. The former president dreamed of strange things every night. Dr. Oken, who had been in a coma for 20 years since the previous war, suddenly woke up. Because of this confusion, General Adams wanted to find Director David to find out the cause. But now David was in Africa with some other scientists. Here, people had fought with aliens for 20 years. They even knew how to use their guns. David came here to observe and study the wreckage and strange signals from a spacecraft that was defeated 20 years ago. A few days ago, this spacecraft suddenly became active again. To find out the cause, they decided to enter it. In the end, they discovered that this spacecraft was not like the others. Before being defeated, it had sent a distress signal to its homeland, and it seemed like something had responded. When returning to the base, scientist Catherine discovered that those who were exposed to this wreckage became scared. The South African commander agreed with her opinion, because he also dreamed of it and redrew it into a strange symbol. At the same time, Commander Adams suddenly discovered their protection station at the Mars belt had been attacked by something. They predicted it wouldn't be long before it reached the base on the Moon. Shortly thereafter, Adams issued the highest warning. The warning had just been broadcast when suddenly a huge vortex appeared near the Moon. From within, a spherical ship of unknown origin flew out. This spacecraft was very similar to that symbol. On the other hand, it was not like the spacecraft that attacked the Earth. Therefore, David asked the Council to cancel the attack. But the U.S. President thought it had destroyed the base on Mars. She decided to shoot it down. The cannon was immediately fired and destroyed the spacecraft. All were happy, but David was not, because he thought that they had been too hasty to judge. The alien sphere and its kind also agreed with that view. Therefore, the two of them commandeered a transport and flew from the Moon to Earth to meet David. Here, they got on a ship together and flew to the place where the object was shot down. After passing the wreckage of the aircraft, they approached the other object. It was true that it was very similar to the symbol in the drawing. At this time, Earth was celebrating Independence Day. Their aircraft were performing for everyone to see, making everyone very encouraged. When the former president appeared and spoke at the opening ceremony, he warned people about something, but he suddenly froze. Not only him, but all those who dreamed about the symbol did the same. From a distance, a giant ship with a diameter of about 5,000 kilometers was approaching the Moon. Everything that approached it turned into dust. The group quickly ran to their ship to escape. They used the ship's arm to clamp the sphere and immediately flew away. But the gravitational pull of the alien spacecraft was too big. Soon they were sucked back in. The defense system on the Moon quickly prepared to fire. But human guns were now unable to penetrate their protective layer. And yet they still counterattacked. This caused the base on the Moon to be completely destroyed. Only a few crew members could escape. They would enter the Earth's atmosphere in 22 minutes. The president immediately ordered the launch of the defense system. Immediately the surrounding artillery loaded energy prepared to shoot. But before they could fire, all human cannons were destroyed. The alien spacecraft then started to enter the Earth's atmosphere. It came to cover the entire Western Pacific. Coincidentally, it also appeared over many Asian and European countries. It sucked everything up, destroying and killing countless lives. Buildings, vehicles, and aircraft were sucked up. David's group found this scene speechless. The spacecraft gradually landed and stopped its engine. This caused all the things that were sucked up to now fall back down. Fortunately, Jake was a good pilot, so he successfully brought them out of the dangerous area. The spacecraft's legs lowered, causing a large wave at sea. There was only rubble remaining everywhere. When it stopped, the spacecraft covered a large part of the planet. At this time, people came to Area 51. Dr. Oken said that the aliens were not screaming, but they were celebrating. They didn't understand why the former president, defying the danger, entered the room where the aliens could invade his mind. At this point, people knew that the commander of this landing was led by a giant alien queen. Suddenly, she was very scared of the symbol in Catherine's hand. Seeing the former president was about to be killed, the soldiers fired to destroy the alien monster, even using spears to fight. At this time, the aliens were starting to dig deep towards the heart of the Earth. The spacecraft would eventually cause the Earth to be destroyed. David made an assumption. If someone killed the Queen, they would be like a snake that lost its head
and stop working. There was no other way. The president agreed with this decision. The squadron immediately met to implement the attack plan. The goal was the central red area of the spacecraft. Throwing a bomb into it would destroy their shield. Thousands of military aircraft headed to the spacecraft. From above, a series of machine guns shot down countless human aircraft. The war broke out, but the most damaged side was still the human side. Suddenly, the aliens stopped shooting, allowing the squadron to fly inside. This seemed like a great opportunity for people to drop their destruction bombs. At this time, the former president suddenly woke up. He warned that it was a trap, but it was too late. An EMP wave made the aircraft unable to boot, and they were disabled. The explosive bombs were activated but did not work. And yet, this blue wave was emitted across the whole globe, destroying all satellites and communication equipment. At this time, an alien ship attacked. They killed all senior officials, including the president. Commander Adams was quickly elected to be the new president. After the attack, only some survivors were left, but they were struggling to fight the alien hunters. In Area 51, Dr. Oken used a laser to open the alien sphere. Inside, there was a giant white orb. An employee accidentally touched it, which made the orb work. After a while, the orb suddenly spoke. It explained that their race had fought with the alien monsters for thousands of years, but eventually failed. It was the only survivor and was being hunted by them. Due to their signal, they came here to warn people but were attacked. Because they had previously built a base for survivors on planets they visited and taught them how to create weapons, the Queen was hunting the orb to find the coordinates of those planets. At this time, David and Oken thought of a way. They intended to put the sphere's signal on a ship and then hide the orb itself. Then they would wait for the Queen to come and use the defense system to trap her. At the same time, the Queen had gained the signals from the orb. She went to put on a giant armor and led a small spacecraft to bring troops to Area 51. The former president decided to participate in this war. He went to the ship's commander to make a plan. All soldiers were prepared. Now, on their spacecraft, the group of people who survived the first attack, including Jake, Dylan, and others, used a trick to mix in with alien aircraft. Despite being violently shot at, the group escaped outside. At this time, the Queen's army was landing in Area 51. A chaotic battle broke out. But what they were relieved about was that the Queen had been lured to a desert. The former president flew inside. David immediately opened the shield. The former president looked at the monster for the last time. He detonated the bomb, destroying the Queen. Everyone was happy for the victory. But suddenly, the Queen came out of the rubble because she had armor, so she was completely okay. The monster scanned for the bus carrying the students. In the sky, a series of fighters were shot to lure her. Patricia used full power to shoot at the Queen's shield, but she was also hit and escaped promptly. But Jake's group had appeared and saved her in time. Inside Area 51, after the aliens were shot, they discovered the orb's spacecraft. The Queen also discovered that she had been tricked. She called out a series of fighters and went to Area 51. Small aircraft flew around, forming a large shield to protect the Queen. She went to the place to get the orb. But Jake's group flew from below and rushed up. They fired a bullet straight into the head of the Queen. Finally, they succeeded in killing her. Their drill disappeared. A series of aircraft stopped and fell. The big spacecraft also began to fly away from Earth. Humans succeeded in driving back the aliens. Dr. Oken was very happy that the orb would help them learn more advanced things. They could prepare for a counterattack against the world of this orb's enemies. This is the end of the movie called Independence Day. If you like this, give me a like and a comment below. Thanks for watching, and see you guys in the next videos.